In today's video, I'll be discussing the top 10 most intense moments I've ever experienced on a roller coaster. Please note that any given roller coaster will only be featured once, and I will only be discussing roller coasters that I have personally been on. I have been on over 200 different roller coasters, but there's still plenty more out there for me to experience. Alright, well let's get to the list. Number 10, the bottom of the first drop on Goliath at Six Flags New England. It's a shame that Goliath isn't as smooth as it could be, because that's the only reason that prevented me from riding this massive boomerang roller coaster again. The ride is terrifying as you're staring 190 feet straight down to the earth. Once you drop and reach the bottom of that first drop, you experience some great positive G-forces. Goliath has the makings of a fun roller coaster. Now if they could just only fix the roughness. Number 9, the final Helix on Wild One, Six Flags America. Recently, I was stoned for suggesting Six Flags America to convert this sort of classic wooden coaster into a hybrid RMC. Yes, this roller coaster was built in 1917, and it's technically one of the oldest roller coasters in the world, but the ride suffered a massive fire in the 1930s and thus redesigned in 1932. The roller coaster was completely torn down and then rebuilt at Six Flags America and renamed as the Wild One. Beyond the ride's history, there's a moment on this coaster that took me by complete surprise, and that's the final Helix. Up until that moment, Wild One was mostly about airtime, which it does provide a good dose of. Near the end of the ride, when you think it's about over, Wild One throws you into the most intense element, a Helix. What makes this element so intense is that it's not really banked, so get ready to experience some good lateral Gs. Number 8. Helix on Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain. The rest of Goliath may be a complete bore, but it's the Helix, go figure, that keeps this roller coaster from becoming completely forgettable. Almost near the end point of this roller coaster, riders travel close to the ground for this fast, intense Helix that is almost guaranteed to cause you to gray out. This moment took me by surprise because, well, up to that point, I was bored on Goliath, but it comes in this intense Helix that I thought for a moment was going to make me black out. Now, it was about 110 degrees when I rode Goliath, so your body will be more prone to graying out in hotter temperatures, but regardless, this Helix is intense. It's a shame that the rest of the ride can't compete with it. Number 7, the Outer Bank turn on Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Not only is this element intense, it's also one of the most unique moments on any roller coaster. Rocky Mountain construction started to introduce this whole concept of banking a turn in the opposite direction, in which the train is turning to deliver a weird airtime-filled moment. Like every other element on Steel Vengeance, the Outer Bank turn on this roller coaster is taken to the extreme, as you are catapulted into this long sustained moment of airtime. Regardless of where you are seated, be prepared to be flown out of your seat. It's such a weird moment because as you're being banked facing the complete opposite direction in which the train is headed. This is also one of the longest sustained moments of airtime that I've ever experienced. Steel Vengeance has a lot of great moments throughout its long ride time, but this, in my opinion, is the most memorable. Number 6, the first drop on El Toro, Six Flags Great Adventure. If you're a seeker of airtime, look no further than El Toro, arguably the best wooden roller coaster on the planet. The first drop is also one of the most intense moments of airtime that you could ever experience, as long as you're riding in the back row, of course. This moment will send you flying out of your seat into some insane ejector airtime that will last for a few seconds. Though this is the highlight moment for me, the insane ejector airtime doesn't end there, as you are then sent into 2 more sustained ejector airtime-filled hills back to back. This roller coaster was my number 1 up until Steel Vengeance, so hopefully that's some sort of testament to how great this ride is. Number 5, first airtime hill on Skyrush at Hersheypark. There's another roller coaster that fans of airtime shouldn't skip. Skyrush has some of the strongest moments of airtime that I've ever experienced. After completing the first drop, riders are sent into a short turn that launches you into an intense airtime moment. Be prepared to be catapulted out of your seat. If you decided to ride in a wing seat, this element is that much more crazy. Skyrush packs in multiple moments of strong ejector airtime, but it's that first airtime hill that takes the top spot. I know that this roller coaster is controversial with the coaster community. Some don't like it, others say that the ride restraints completely ruin the entire experience. but I don't have any problems with this coaster. Could the restraints be better? Of course, but I don't think it detracts from what I consider a world-class coaster. Number 4, the Pretzel Knot inversion on Banshee, Kings Island. Inverted roller coasters are known for their forceful inversions, so it would be no surprise that Banshee, one of the largest inverted coasters out there, would also feature one of the most intense inversions. It has been a couple years since I've ridden Banshee, but I haven't forgotten how intense this coaster is. The Pretzel Knot inversion, which is basically a dive loop followed by an Immelman, keeps the forces strong and relentless. Banshee keeps moving from one inversion to the next and not really taking a breath in between. The Pretzel Knot is where the roller coaster reaches its top speed, which is why the G-forces would be the strongest. I heard that from those who visited Kings Island this year that Banshee was suffering from a bad rattle. Hopefully this is resolved, as Banshee is one of the better inverted coasters on the planet. Number 3, the launch on Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point. When Top Thrill Dragster opened to the public in 2003, it was the tallest and fastest roller coaster on the planet. With a launch that takes you from 0 to 120 miles an hour in less than 4 seconds, it's no surprise that this dragster would be making it onto this list. Experience your face being smushed in as you catapult your way down the launch and up 420 feet into the air. The drop on Top Thrill is also quite intense. When you bottom out, the G-forces are sure to push you back into your seat. This roller coaster may only be 20 seconds long, but it will be one of the most intense 20 seconds of your life. King de Ka, which is located at Six Flags Great Adventure, is a slightly taller and faster version of Top Thrill Dragster. Because I prefer Dragster over Ka, it made it onto this list, but expect a similar experience on King de Ka. Number 2, the Pretzel Loop on Tatsu at Six Flags Magic Mountain. The Pretzel Loop became a staple with flying roller coasters, so it'd be no surprise that this best version of this element would be featured on the tallest flying coaster in the world. This Pretzel Loop took me by surprise, as it packs in the G-forces. I would be dishonest if I said that it wasn't the most intense inversion that I've ever experienced. The other inversions on Tatsu are all about flying through the sky, but when you least expect it, you dive down 124 feet into the super intense inversion, making sure you know that Tatsu means business. I am also ashamed to say that somehow I completely neglected the Pretzel Loop from my top 10 favorite inversion list. I really don't know what I was thinking, because this is one of my favorite inversions out there, and I did this inversion a disservice for not mentioning it before. Number 1, the first turn on Intimidator 305, King's Dominion. Honestly, could there be any other roller coaster that deserves the top spot on this list? Intimidator 305 is the most intense roller coaster on the planet. The first turn after the big drop is also arguably the most intense moment on any roller coaster. You are all but guaranteed to gray out during this long, intense turnaround. It didn't take long after the ride opened for the park to realize that their new creation was maybe a little too intense for the general public. The turnaround was modified during the off-season to make it less intense, but regardless of this change, it's still the most intense element that I've ever experienced. I would argue that it's less common for you not to gray out during this ride. I-305 doesn't let up after this crazy first turn. The rest of the roller coaster is pedal to the floor crazy. Some rank this as their favorite roller coaster on the planet, and I can respect that opinion. I-305 is truly a monster on wheels. Well, that's my list of my top 10 most intense moments on a roller coaster. Let me know what you think is the most intense moment on a roller coaster in the comments below. As always, please subscribe so you don't miss out on more great content coming your way by XscreamThrills.